Hey guys, welcome to Silver Lining Nation. I've been meaning to get Jennifer on Silver Lining for a while, and because she's got an amazing story, y'all. And we attend the same 12-step program. And Jennifer,
Hi.
hey
Thanks
girl.
for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. So, Jennifer, how long have you been in the rooms?
I came of 2020, and my sobriety date is January 3rd, 2021.
What was your first experience when you came into the 12-step room? I guess let's back up. Tell us what happened to bring you into the 12-step.
The very kind of last thing that happened was I had gone on for about a year and a half of the things that we do and the ways that we hurt ourselves. And I got into a really bad car accident. Thank goodness nobody else was involved. But I almost died, and I almost ripped off my foot, and I woke up in the hospital still intoxicated, and went through a series of aftercare, and I was in the hospital for several months, and then I was in a physical rehabilitation, and whenever I got out of there, I literally drank within hours of being out of there, despite the fact that I left there in a wheelchair. And I
Now,
wasn't
was this
able
a
to walk.
car accident
Yeah.
from drinking?
Yes, I was
Okay.
drunk driving, and I thought it was a good idea to go meet a guy somewhere. And I went totally the opposite direction of where I was even supposed to be going. I was supposed to be going north. I ended up south, and I was, I guess, taking an exit, but did not actually take the exit, ended up taking the guardrail instead. And then the car just rolled into the ravine multiple times. And the police officer that came with the tow report, he showed me photos of the car, and he was just amazed that I was even alive because the whole top of it was completely crushed in. And I had everything that I owned, with the exception of a few things in the car, because I had destroyed all the relationships that I had, and I mean, nobody wanted to help me. And I get it, but I had everything in there, and I was one day late from the 30-day period to go get my car. Lost all of that stuff, and I can say now that it was the best thing of my life, though.
So, how old were you when this happened?
That was in 2015, so I would have been 26, and I'm 26 or 27.
So, was that in Dallas? Had you just moved here?
I had been here a few years, and the thing is I had started to get into a little bit of my addiction. I moved from West Texas to here, and I had started in a really bad way there. And when I got here, it was a new environment, and so everything kind of calmed down in here for a little bit because everything was exciting again. And it quickly turned into the exact same thing. I was running around at clubs, doing things I didn't need to be doing with people I didn't need to be doing things with, and putting myself in super dangerous situations that I've been hurt.
Can relate to that.
Yeah.
So, is it just drugs? Is it alcohol and drugs, or is it just one or the other one? I have both.
Mine was everything. It was to the point where I would literally just take random pills. I just, even if it clearly indicated it wouldn't do anything to alter my state of reality, I still tried because I was like, well, maybe if I take enough of them, but nothing ever helped.
So, were you? The state of Texas say you had to come to a 12-step rooms, or did you?
In 2014, I had gone to one 12-step meeting, and I made myself different immediately. I was just so closed. I was going there because my sister told me I needed to, and I was like, nah. And so all I did was look for all the differences. And so after I got out of the physical rehab and then drank, I ended up in a mental hospital for the umpteenth time, and ended up going into a sober living community. And ultimately, I really did that because I didn't want to be homeless, and I was in this wheelchair, and I had been living in my car for about a week previous to this car accident. And I didn't have anywhere to be, and I knew that, And there's requirements there. And so that's really what got me started.
The requirements at the sober living required that you went to a 12-step and you get a sponsor.
And I meet with them a certain number of times a month and all that stuff.
How many treatment centers?
9.
9?
I hate even saying that. And I've been to the mental hospital and every time to end up at those places. And then they're in between those times just to detox and just so that I could get right back to
what I'm doing. Just giving your body a break.
I was literally towards the end becoming institutionalized because I felt so incapable and just so alone. There were times that I did things specifically to get jail or specifically to get thrown into because I didn't know this at the time, obviously. I was afraid of myself, and that was where I knew that I was not going to be allowed to do that.
So, you've been to 9 treatment centers. Did any of them make a difference? Did either one of those get the message?
It was really the first time after the car accident, something touched me because the people that came there was this one guy and he's talked about the same feelings. It wasn't even what he was saying. I got planted a little bit of the idea that something could be different, but I didn't know what that looked like, and I just resisted that for a long time because I didn't think I could do anything like that. I didn't think that I ever stood a chance. And then whenever I came to the program that I'm in now, I don't know, I guess the time between then, just so much had happened. And I came in and this lady was talking about herself and what she was going through. And she was loud. Just sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to be saying that, but that's just what it was. And she was just sounded like she used to be as angry as me and everything else, and now she's just like, I still have these crazy thoughts, but like this is how we manage it today, and we don't got to act on it. And I was like, I don't know what I want right now, but I know that I want that bare minimum to not be so reactionary. And that's really what got me started with thinking that this might help.
Were you angry drunk?
I was all the drunks. I was the.
You said you were all the drunks.
I was the crying one. I was the fun one that would have everybody dancing, and sometimes I could be all these in the same night, But yeah, towards the end, I was very angry, and I was angry with myself, which I didn't learn until I came, to do this work for myself. But I was really just angry with myself, and I just took it out on the people around me because I was never taught any other way. My mother was an alcoholic and died from this disease a couple of years ago from alcohol-induced dementia. And like all my life, all I've ever said is I'm not going to end up that way. All I ever wanted was for her. And I told myself, like, I'm not. I was like the poster child for DARE and all this stuff. And I let that dude down so hard. And it's just like, I just knew I didn't want this, but I didn't know what I wanted. And this is the thing that helped me figure it out.
And you do so much service work for the group. I love that. Does that help you with your recovery? Why do you do so much? That's what I'm asking.
Well, at first, I just had way too many thoughts going on all the time, and a lot of them are negative. Self or making it to other people. And so in the beginning, to avoid doing that kind of stuff and putting myself through that, if I was hands-on and I was getting that kind of satisfaction of, knowing that the toilet's clean or the whatever, the coffee is made, just for those little periods, I could have this kind of be a little
to be quiet. Yes. So what are some of the programs that you enjoy doing for recovery to give back? I know you give back to Maggie's house. Is that?
Yeah, I was going to Magdalene for a little while. Because they were doing it in like a rotation at one point whenever I was doing it. I also have taken meetings to TDCJ Transitional Center every Sunday. I did that for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, every
That's
Sunday.
good.
And once I went there and realized that generally only males were going, and it would limit the number of people that were allowed to be in this one room. Like I was like, we're not doing that anymore. And so I went there and I was like, can we have like a separate women's meeting in this area since it's not being used? And they did. And so it went from 5 women being able to come to however many were in the unit could come, which was what I'm not gonna lie, I was like angry. I'm like, 25 guys and 5 women? Are you kidding? But
Yeah, is that one still going on?
Yes, it is. It's being facilitated by a few other people, and we actually got it to where we have a group that goes on Sunday, and then we have a Tuesday meeting established, and we're working on getting them a Wednesday one because all these people are getting like their paper signed, and they're trying to make plans to go, living plans for whenever they get out of there.
Yeah.
And so they have to have that. And if we don't bring it to them, they do not have it.
So some of the women prisons where they don't have a meeting unless someone from the outside brings them a meeting.
Yep, that's exactly how it was there because they were allowed to leave and stuff, but they had a very limited window of time. They also had requirements to look for jobs during that time. Like that's really stressful, and to try to also find a meeting that you're allowed to go to in that time is difficult.
Yes, that is, and
I have to have the like knowing that somebody really gets it, and that even if that's all I know when I go there and I don't say anything that day, being there is for me is comforting. And so
how many of you guys go at once?
Typically it was like for a while it was myself because these are people that just got out of prison for an extended period. As far as the women's meeting, it was myself, and I would occasionally get some other ladies to go with me. And it can be a little challenging because all just got out of prison, but it's like it's what it is. And so I would go there and I would just lead the meeting and do the best that I could and go in there knowing that I was doing the right thing, and it always worked out well, even if something happened.
Were they open to receive the message?
A lot of them were, and one of the things that I thought was really great, ultimately, my agenda is to help people feel better. Like it doesn't have, it's great if I can help an addict or an alcoholic, but ultimately I just really want to help people, which is not anything I've wanted for in my life until now. And like, there were these 2 women that were coming that did not, they were not in, so they say, I don't know, they were not in on anything substance related, and they were still coming to the meetings because they had some requirement in order to get out of there that they had to attend a certain number. And these 2 women like kept coming consistently more than anybody else because they found that they could see themselves in it in other ways, like other ways that they may be having those behaviors and trying to avoid their feelings.
So they were using their 12 steps to help in other issues that they were having, which wasn't related to alcohol
and substances,
drugs.
right?
Because you can use the 12 steps and you and I discussed this.
For me, it has been connecting with myself and my true self, realizing the things that were me and the things that were, because I just believe that we're truly like a spiritual being, and so these human experiences that I was having or whatever that may not have, like, now I can look at things that I'm doing and I might, like, because it's buffering, and so I can look to these pacifiers that I have, and it's like, am I smoking the vape because I'm like bored or because whatever, and it's usually I'm just trying to not feel some type of way.
The whole thing is asking yourself, what's going on?
As opposed to, what's wrong with me? I gotta hide and cover it up.
Yes, yeah. I was really good at that. So,
you know what I do now?
What?
I've been doing it because I'm off, on leave from work for some stuff. And I've been going and like, there's a person that used to be in the sober living community that comes to the group that we're in, and he's back out and he's on the corner, nearby here. And I don't know what it was, but like I was moved when I drove by there to stop and talk to him. And I stopped and talked to him. And I mean, now I go see him like at least once a week. And I have been blessed to have a vending company because of this. And, you know, we think we know what people need, but like sometimes people just need somebody to hear them and to say, you know, I'm sorry that you're going through this, and to not judge them. And art can change somebody's
Oh
day.
my goodness.
You know,
it changes my day sometimes.
and I wouldn't have any of that. I wouldn't have the capacity within me to even be moved to do that, much less the things that I can give people now if it wasn't for coming to recovery, connecting with myself, and starting to shed that stuff. We talk about character defects and stuff, and I don't believe personally that all of my defects are 100% defects, because I can see the ways that those things have helped me and how they can help me. Like my perfectionism and hypervigilance before caused me to run around and be angry with everyone and try to tell them how the way that they need to do things, and then look for the ways that they were upset and try to fix it and do all this stuff. And now I can take my perfectionism and I can look around and I can spot problems like safety issues or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I like that. I believe the same thing, because all of my character defects, you know, some of them, it's according to how you use them. It's like what you just said.
Is it a tool or is it a weapon?
Yes. Yeah, and I think some of them are gifts.
Oh,
that we have. They're like my strength, but it's according to how I use those.
And just because you have a defect doesn't mean that you are defective. Like it's just a little piece of a really amazing puzzle. How to handle that, because I didn't have tools, and that doesn't mean it was my fault. I had no awareness, but now that I do, I know when I'm not using the tools, and then I know that I'm hurting myself.
Yes. Were you raised in a strict environment when you say you wasn't taught to use certain things?
I was literally the first place that I was ever taken before I was ever taken home from the hospital was to a bar that my mom and dad owned, because they had a baby viewing, which was just a great excuse for everybody to have a party, you know? And that's how I grew up. I grew up in a biker bar. And then, I mean, that was, you know, before I moved to Texas. And I mean, my mother was an alcoholic. My father, I'm not going to say he was an alcoholic, but he had tendencies and anger issues and drank frequently, and also sold drugs and just other things, you know. But
you sound like you had an interesting childhood.
Yeah, it was really all over the place. And then my mother's conflict with herself and how she treated me in relation to it, it just caused a lot of inner turmoil, because ultimately I wanted her to be happy. And I didn't know that I couldn't make that happen. Like that's an inside job. And all I ever wanted was for her to be happy. And I just came to like a weird realization the other day whenever I looked at myself in the mirror, because I've been doing a lot more like high level work recently in my spiritual development. And I looked at myself and I said, all I've ever done with this hypervigilance and everything is use it to try to make everyone else happy. And then I looked at myself and I was like, why are you not doing this for yourself? And then that just hit me, and I was just like, I started crying, and then I was just like, well, I am now. And then, I mean, you know, and sometimes it can be that easy in this moment, but then I got to keep it going by talking about it.
Yes, I completely understand. You say your mom was an alcoholic.
From the time I was born until I was 8, because that's when we moved to Texas, it kind of really wasn't like that so much. I was being shuffled around to various places. My mother had multiple jobs and was drinking and doing all this. And my dad was offshore drilling back and forth and selling drugs and all over the place. So I was with caretakers or daycares a lot.
Okay.
And then when we moved to Texas, she got into a car accident that changed the entire course of her life. And her alcoholism went off the deep end. And she was the literal Jekyll Hyde definition thing. Like it was, she would be sober and the best mom, the most loving and attentive. And then when she was drunk, she was yelling at me and calling me names. Taking all that stuff that now I know this, taking all that stuff for herself and putting it onto me. She hated herself. And she was so amazing and just she really was, and she was so loving. The love that I am able to have and give to other people, and the ways that I am moved to be of service to other people are, I believe, in direct relation to those times. That's the good parts that I got from her. She really was great. I just wish I wish we all could.
So, what was your experience growing up
in Mississippi? I can remember the first time that I felt challenged by any of it was whenever I was 4, and my mother, she went away they said she had a nervous breakdown. I found out that was the first time she'd ever been to rehab. I found that out.
So instead of saying she's in rehab,
I was running around asking people when they were deflecting, and I'm not an idiot. I wasn't then. I know my mother's not around and something's wrong. Right. And I would ask them, and finally I looked at one of my older sisters and was like, look, tell me where my mom's at. I know something's wrong and I'm not stupid. And that's when she told me that she'd had a mental breakdown. Mental breakdown was rehab. And she did have a brief interaction, I'll say, with 12-step recovery. Didn't take it, buy in, didn't try to go back, and then that was
so it just didn't take.
No, she wasn't. If she had really bad self-worth issues, I also have struggled with that. And if you don't think you're enough, you don't think that you're worth even going there to get the help.
So which you mentioned you have other siblings.
I have an older sister who has a different father, and then the rest of them have different mothers. And I have 4 other siblings aside. The one that has the same mother, we're really close. The oldest 2 I have never met. They were from my father's first marriage, like a long time ago. And the
sister that lives near you, is she sober?
Yeah, she doesn't. I mean, she had the propensity to go that way, but I was already fully in it, and I think that might have kind of helped her with and she utilizes a lot of we talk, and I help her in the ways that I've been helped by 12-step programs, and she finds it beneficial.
Do you think your environment played a lot in your disease?
I believe so. The only reason is, there's different people's opinions about whether they were born an alcoholic or not or whatever. I believe that personally that we as spirits are born pure, and then things happen in ways that they happen, and then we end up going a certain way, So I'm sorry, what was the rest of it?
Did your environment have anything?
I think that as I got older, and as I was abused, and as I just developed these certain, I can remember a time whenever I was little, and that happy, joyous, free, carefree thing, I can remember feeling that way. I can remember not being worried about what other people thought of me and stuff. And then I can remember the first time that I realized that somebody was judging me for something weird I was doing, and that was it. And then I just try to be perfect. That's the thing it's like, it's a delusion. Perfection is a delusion, all of it. I have to be told by somebody else, because I can intellectualize anything, and I can study it. I call it perpetual planning. I'm always planning to do better, but not actually doing better. And so once I actually start doing, I get better, but it involves actually
doing the process of it.
The real thing. And it took showing up, and there's a thing that people say, meeting makers make it, and it's like, I believe that meeting makers make it, that come back consistently enough to realize that they should probably do the work. So you know what I mean?
It's more to it.
Exactly.
Than that.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're going to be
Yes.
here and you're going to be still angry and everything else if we don't get started.
Take the action of the program.
Yeah.
You mentioned the spirituality, and it sounds like we have in the room in the 12-step program the spirituality of God, if you want to call it, of your understanding.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like yours is it a God that you drive to, or whatever you want to call it? Is that what you do? You believe God is your higher power?
I don't. I think that that's a word for the thing that can't really be explained.
Okay.
And I personally, I feel like a lot of we're giving structure to something that we don't have a way to fully understand the capacity of, and we need that kind of comfort. And I think that's great because a lot of the religious, most of them are good things, like don't kill your neighbor, don't let's not treat each other like crap and hurt each other. Those are good guidelines to go by, But as far as me, I don't believe in any type of guy or guys or people in the sky, whatever, that are looking down, because that frightens me, honestly. And because I grew up in a Southern Baptist and Church of Christ mix, and I am in that environment in my mind, based on not understanding what I was reading and things that other people told me, I'm bad. I'm being judged constantly. I'm this. And so this entity thing freaked me out. And I really had to do a lot of work about letting that idea go, while looking at all kinds of religions and really just sort of making it into something that worked for me. And one of my favorites is really, it's like, I think, but it's basically this idea that like we're all God, quote unquote, but a tiny piece. And that if we could actually just integrate and connect and not resist each other and not be violent and fight each other, that is when like God will come into alignment. And the only reason I really like that, I don't know if I even believe that fundamentally, like fully or not, but it helps me to be nicer to you and to you and everybody, because it's like if I can see that piece of God in you, that's what I feel like we're doing whenever we talk, because I can talk a lot about brains, prefrontal cortex, and all this. It's we're connecting. If I'm in an emotional distress and I'm in it and I'm emotionally devastated, and I call you and you're not in my emotional devastation, you can look at my emotional devastation from your God spark or whatever, God piece, and then you can help me to get back to mine, and I can come up with real solutions.
Because I have no attachment to
exactly. You're not going through the physical crap I am. And so you can come from that place of actual spirituality and reality instead of this concoction I made in my head.
And the reason I asked you that, because I can tell by our conversation there was something different, and I think it's unique. I think that's what the 12-step program provides. For me, is to be open-minded.
Exactly.
Because I can tell you, I've been in the program 14 years. Before that time, I would not be able to listen to that conversation.
It makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. We're not taught to, I mean, for the most part, I can't speak for everybody in the world, but I know I, coming from this specific structure, was not taught to think that anybody else could be right, that it has to be this specific way. And whenever I put God, Tao, whatever you want to call it, into a box, I am limiting my life. And whenever I do that, I'm going to judge you because you're not doing it the way that
it's not like me.
And it's not. I mean, it's that's not reality.
Yeah. You think a lot.
I do.
And you analyze things a lot. How hard was that being a person that I just described.
Uh-huh.
How hard was it for you to?
It was very difficult because I'm in like intellectual vibes and all this stuff,
Yes.
but like it really took it was very challenging, and it took time of just coming back and piecing things together. As long as I continued to do the work through the resistance, through the anxiety and everything else, as long as I continued to just, it slowly just deconstructed that, and it really helped me to understand honestly more about why a lot of the things that we do because of our brains, but how it's not just specific to that. Because we whatever this is that we are, like, we can have the same bodies, have the same types of fingernails and everything, but you are not me and I am not you. And there's no real science that can fully explain that. And that is God.
And I've been in
The very first meeting I went to in 2014, I told you, I walked in and like it was a noon meeting. So there were a lot, and during the week, so there were a lot of people in like a suit, and there were some secretary type ladies. And I walk in and I'm wearing a Hell Yeah band t-shirt, black and white Galaxy leggings, and knee-high Converse. And I walk in and sat down. Everybody was perfectly nice. People tried to talk to me after the meeting. No one treated me differently. I treated me differently. And then it was over.
You didn't talk a lot.
All I could do was think about how different I was from everybody, because you're unique just like everybody else. Like, we are unique, but we're not that different. And I was different. I always find that that's what ego is. Ego. A lot of people think that ego is, I'm great, I'm a rock star, all this stuff. Ego is the way that we differentiate ourselves from our environment or people around us. That is a neutral statement. So I can either be the greatest person on earth, or I can be a piece of crap. That is all ego. If I'm the best, that's ego. If I'm the worst, that's ego. So it's like really coming in, and once I started to align with doing it for myself, because I actually started to feel better in my body and less reactive, less emotional, then that became the fuel. At first, I was just doing it. Like, the last time I went to rehab, I got out and I went home, and I was home for 4 days. And on the fourth morning, I woke up and I had my head in the pillow, and I was all feeling sorry for myself and all mad. And my husband looks over and he said, "So have you thought about going to a meeting yet?" He said, you know, I'm not telling you what to do, but like, have you considered it? Because there's a noon meeting down the street. And it's the one down the street from our group. I went there, and just I was just so broken feeling, so open to that, just sitting there and being seen, being vulnerable for the first time in my life, after all the time in that original program I was in, and after all the time being rehab and all the things. Like, I was sick of myself and ready to do something different. And that is a big change, because I was pretty suicidal for most of my life. So to default to wanting to do better.
Would you address your issues with depression?
I still feel and think kind of depressive thoughts sometimes, but I think that one of the things that's helped is that the program has helped me to not make it such a big, like, it's okay, it's not the end of the world. And during my using my wonder years,
I like that.
yeah, wasn't wonderful.
Yeah, wonder.
Yeah, during the wonder years, we'll say. I call it the before times sometimes too. I didn't know. I always just thought there was something wrong with me, and I took it all. I took myself too seriously and too personally. Like, anytime I had a thought, I was like, God, that makes me terrible. I need to not look at that. And so then I would use these substances on top of it, and all of the alcohol, the substances, and everything. And so one of the things that I personally did whenever I came to the program, I was still on medications for it, to give my brain a break from all the stuff I was doing to it. But as I came to the program, as I started using the tools, and I actually started to try to use them in my own personal time instead of waiting for the every Saturday when I met my sponsor, once I really started to use them is when a lot of that stuff, it doesn't, for me, it didn't go away. It just, and then I was able to get with my doctor and talk to them because a lot of that stuff wasn't 100% working right. And I could never really figure out what pill to put on top of what. And the first little bit of coming in, like, we've done so much to ourselves that we got to give ourselves just time and a chance, And once I came in and really started doing the work, stopped putting substances in my body just randomly for no reason, I really realized that I didn't need as much of that type of stuff as I thought. And I still utilize a lot of the tools from those, doctor's visits and appointments that I had. But personally, I have not had to use medication for that because of the tools that I've gotten. But I know that that is also no two brains are the same, and that is not 100% for anyone. And so that was just my experience. Once I gave myself a break and stopped just dousing myself with chemicals, it helped a lot.
Yeah, because in our program, we don't claim to be doctors.
Oh no, qualified. We are not anything.
I can't do that.
Drugs, those are depressants, and then I was also putting these depressants on and then being too low and then putting these uppers on. And
and if you can't balance
you can't, there's nothing.
When people would say, you either up or down. Like,
no wonder everybody thought I was bipolar. I'm not bipolar. I'm just putting too many drugs in my body.
So you sponsor other females?
Yes, I have. I have one right now that I'm working with, and I have had 4 in the past. One is still doing relatively well. I mean, she's still trying for herself, and that's super important to me. I think the first person that I worked with, she came in to kind of get some information, and then she ended up leaving. That's fine, And I've tried what I do. Like, I don't chase anybody down or anything, but I will occasionally just pop somebody a text and say, hey, I just thought about you. And it doesn't matter if I see them all the time or if they never came back.
I do that.
It's important for people to know that they are seen and that they are thought of. And that I think that when I am moved to, like that guy, take him a bottle of water and talk to him for 5 minutes, if I am moved to text somebody or out, that is God.
Need to do it.
That's God. Then the thing afterwards where it's, that is the disease. That's all the other crap.
That's the disease, because I believe that with me, that I need it.
Right. I mean, there's like vibrations.
See that.
See, I can put science to that too. I won't, but I can. When you have a vibration and when you have a connection with somebody, because our emotions are our physical sensations. And so when you have that type of connection with somebody, it's like that instant that washes over you, that something's wrong with a specific person. And then they call you 2 hours later and they tell you something really bad happened.
Yes.
I believe and that's the part of the whole human experience that can't be fully 100% explained by science.
And I believe in that.
I mean, and it's a vibration.
Yeah, I believe that happens. Mentioning the sponsees, I know you do the steps with them. Step 9.
I'm currently making amends to her by doing this. Okay. She was like I'll get to the rest of it in a minute, but she was she had alcohol-induced dementia, wet brain, and she was no longer present.
Can you explain to the viewers?
It's actually a vitamin. It's a thiamine deficiency, and so if the lack of that does too much damage to your brain can't come back from it.
And it's from drinking.
And it's from drinking. Yes, it's literally because you're drinking so much that you're flushing all of the vital nutrients out of your body. And she had just done it for so long that her brain couldn't recover from it because she had brain damage from the car accident she was in also. And
was asking you about making amends.
Oh yes. And so what I do, it was kind of like a revelation to myself. I'm like, I the reason that I continue to do what I do is for every woman on this planet that has ever made themselves small, that has ever felt like they were not enough. And my mom had a lot of challenges in her childhood that I can see clearly now that how those things constructed her to be the way that she was. And she kept herself small and she had big ideas and she was intelligent and she was brilliant and she was told that she was not, and she took that to heart because of just things that she was taught in her life about the way the world works and stuff. This playbook or manual or whatever that we're given, and then that's where we put everything in a box. And she just could never that was kind of the thing. And so now I literally, like, I have her cremated remains and I have a picture of her and I look similar to her and I look at myself and I'm like, literally, I'm everything that I do. And I have big plans now, big ideas, and I fully actually believe I can do them now.
That you will do it.
And yeah, and that's why I will, because anytime that I have a problem or whatever, like, I'm doing this for anybody that has ever felt small and ever felt incapable, because like anybody can do anything that they put their minds to if they do the work. And it's challenging and you do not have to do it alone. That's the point. I can't do it alone because my little scramble brains are what got me here and all that stuff. And so I need somebody to help me. I just,
what an honor to
it, and I
can tell you light up when you talk about her.
So mad. And then I can see now how just I'm the same as her. And so now that I'm like 37, because this is the year before her, the age that she was before her car accident, she was 38. And I know how I'm feeling now. And I actually am able to have true empathy and understand that we're all confused. Like we are. And I can't expect anybody to be anything other than what they are.
And nobody got it.
Yeah.
We all are trying to do the best we can
with what we have and what we've been taught and everything. Yes. And if somebody doesn't have an open mind, how can I expect them to? Whenever I was also taught in certain ways that have developed me to have a closed mind. I can't, that's expectations. And I honestly, I really just would, if I could like have a mission to do anything, it would be to help people realize that they are beautiful, they are enough, that anytime that any situation that they go to, if they were driven to be there, it's because they deserve to be, they were meant to be. And worth is by birth, as in if you were born and you exist on this planet, you're worthy. You're worthy. Everybody feels the same. People, we're seeing the highlight reel of their life, especially with like social media now. Like, no, back in the day, because we're perpetuating the same thing as back in the day. We're gonna save face. We're gonna suck it up. We're gonna keep up with the Joneses. Well, if the Joneses highlight reel is that they're doing summer vacay and having this great life, I'm gonna think that I suck because I'm not doing that all the time. You're not doing that all the time either, except for maybe a few people. But I can't do that. I can't. And that's what I spent most of my life trying to do.
Yeah. Oh, well, Jennifer, thank you. What a great conversation.
Yeah, and I was just so weirded out before because I was like, I know I'm awkward, like, and most of the time I know I can be, let's say. And so sometimes I kind of get in my head about it, and then it's like, it doesn't matter because it's not about how we present here. It's about what we're trying to accomplish.
Sharing the message.
Yeah,
That's what it's about.
I mean, I could look any type of way. I could feel any type of way, as long as I'm showing up.
Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed Jennifer as much as I have. I mean, I can get so caught up in her. And remember, if nobody tells you that they love you today, heard from us here at Silver Lining Nation. We love you.
I love
Take
you
care,
for
guys.
sure. Yes.
Bye.